All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan Kingsley. I am one of the academic success counselors here at Post University in the grad program for the MBA. And thank you so much for attending tonight's call regarding BUS 700 Capstone. Excited to see such a good turnout. With us, we have the program chair for MBA, Dr. Jim Lochran, and our two instructors for Capstone next term, Dr. Prakash Menon and Dr. Wayne Ems. I'll be turning this over to them in a second. Please just be aware that we are recording as of right now. So anything that is, if you choose to go on camera, you will remain on camera. We will be uploading this to YouTube. And we'll also be monitoring the chat for any questions that you have. Since we do have half a dozen people or so, I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to be heard. All right. All right. Can you see my screen again?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you, Dr. Lochran. Take it away.
Well, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. And my name is Dr. James Lochran. And as Alan mentioned, I am the program chair that oversees this course as well as many of the other courses in the MBA program. And I just want to let you know, I'm just so proud of every one of you. And as I look at the names, I've had several of you in courses that I have taught. And I know it's not easy to earn an MBA, especially with the crazy world we're living in right now. And you guys were, doing this during the heyday of the pandemic. And so I have nothing but respect for you and want you to know that I know it's not easy, and I know you gave up a lot of things to get here. And this course is not meant to be a weeder outer. It's actually meant to bring your learning together and apply what you've learned. And having done this course for a long time, both from the development standpoint and taught it and oversaw it, I will say that most students think it's a lot of work. So I'm not going to kid you with that, but most students appreciate what they gain from it. And we generally have very positive evaluations on the course. But I'm going to go into it as it's not a walk in the park capstone, but it is a capstone that is doable. And we have two great professors that I handpicked for this course. Dr. Menon, who's been doing it for a very long time and is very versed in all aspects of the course, and Dr. Ems, who's been with me for quite a while now and has been working with the simulation portion for a very long time, and so I consider him as an expert as well. So you have some, very well-versed instructors who care about your success, and that's why I encourage that you will have a positive experience in this course. But you have to do your part, and that's what we're going to talk through today, and have a plan and kind of organize your thoughts. And so I'm encouraged that you're here because that shows that you care, and this is going to give you a little bit of a head start in thinking about some things as you go into this. So the course is arranged in really three, I would say, pockets, three areas that you have to think about as you navigate this course. The number one is you're going to be working in a virtual team. And so somebody can be like, oh my goodness, I've done it all the way through the program. I thought I'd be done with that. That's a major outcome of our program because our employers have told us we want students that can work with diverse folks from all over the country and world. And we want them to be able to collaborate and work with people that may have a different viewpoint than their own. And so that's why it's such an important part of this. I will say this is not a project-based learning course. Meaning that we don't have one case that you're going to go all the way through, but you're doing your own project, which is a little bit different. I'm going to get into that next. But the virtual team portion, you're not going to be working on a case per se. You're going to be doing a simulation. And what that means is you're going to be running a mock business. So you're going to be selling sensors to other businesses. No, not actually, but simulated. And so you're going to run this business and make very important business decisions as if you were a senior leader in an organization working with other senior leaders. And so this simulation is not embedded in Blackboard. It's a third-party company that is called Capstone. And Capstone has a separate platform. However, your professors will take any of the information from the simulation and be able to bring it into Blackboard. So it's not always immediate, but it brings it over. If you could mute yourselves, it would be wonderful. I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure if it's on my end or not. And I'm going through a really tough storm here, and we have no electricity in my area. And I'm in a public library 25 miles from my home. And so it could be me. So I apologize for that. But going back to the simulation for a moment, in the first several weeks of the course, you'll be working on the simulation in a team. Our teams usually run about a handful. It could be anywhere between 4 and 6 typically in the simulation. It depends how many students that we have. The last I saw, we had about, I thought we had, and maybe Alan, you know how many we have, but I think we're going to end up somewhere around 5 students on a team and probably 2 to 3 teams in the class. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had a little less. We had a little less than 20 people across both classes. So I think that sounds right.
Yeah, so we're going to have 2 classes, or 2 teams of 10 in each course approximately. And so we may drop, and we feel like anywhere between 4 and 6 will work. And I kind of think 4 is a good number, but 5 works really well for us too. And we've had successful teams with 3. But the most important piece of this is collaboration, respect, and engagement, as you're working on this simulation. So as I mentioned, you're going to be selling sensors, and that may not sound like the most interesting item to sell, but like with any business, you have to make some very important decisions. And those decisions will involve what you learned in our program, meaning that there'll be very important marketing decisions. And we know that you have had marketing experience. We also know there'll be decisions around operations on how much you're going to produce. And I'll say right off, that's probably the most important decision that you will make, is how much you're going to produce. And that production, affects your profits. If you produce too much, it's going to affect your profits and probably be the most serious issue. Now, you don't want to produce too little and lose sales, but you don't want to go crazy and produce too much. And what we find most of the time when you're making these decisions, if you have production issues, they're often marketing issues, meaning that you are not marketing correctly to the segment of that market. So you're going to have these different products that you're selling, and they're going to have different segments of the target market. So you're going to have folks that want sensors that are really new. You're going to have some groups that are going to want the most highly technical sensors. So that's a different segment. You're going to want something, you're going to want the lowest price, and so on. And you have to think of a strategy as a team. So you're going to be marketing decisions, production decisions, and human resource decisions that will affect how many people are working, whether they're second shift or overtime. And so you have to decide how many shifts you're going to run and so on, which is a really important decisions with your team. And then total quality is also a really important decision as you move through the simulation in terms of quality. Obviously is one of the most important things. And a few courses ago, we had a team that was really having a difficult time selling their products. And we look at the reports, we could see that the quality was the issue. And a student sent me an email, said, I don't understand why quality is so important. I want you to step back and think about that statement. Really, if you don't have quality products, it doesn't matter what segment. It doesn't matter how low you price it. It doesn't matter if the customer doesn't feel like it's high quality. So never forget that you cannot make decisions in a vacuum. And so this is one of the biggest lessons here, and it's a very important business decision. And some of you may have worked in organizations where the marketing department's not talking to human resources, production's not talking to marketing. Everybody thinks they're making great decisions, but they're not in sync. And that's why we feel virtual teams, you need to be communicating. We set up groups for you in Blackboard where you can communicate. We don't typically have traditional discussion boards in this Capstone. We have a couple weeks where you're giving each other feedback on different things, but just this general question that we ask, we don't, you're not going to have to do that in this course. Most of your work will be communicating with your team. Most teams start in the Blackboard section of the groups, but they use some other communication method as well. And whatever method you use, you have to make sure your team decides and you collaborate and compromise. A term or two ago, I had a student send me an email like, I don't want us to use any type of Google Docs or anything. I'm totally against it. I won't allow my team to do it. I voted against it because I don't want anybody to change anything I put in. I think that that's probably not the right attitude, because you have to think collaboration. You have to think what's right for your team. And if somebody's going to give you feedback, you need to be open to it. Now, they should make changes and not tell you, but that's something you should be discussing. So whatever communication methods, whether you decide to do apps, and communicate that way, or Google Docs or Teams or Blackboard Collaborate, and we have that tool for you. But I think whatever you do, think about what is effective communication, how often you should communicate, and how you're going to collaborate as you make these really important decisions. Early on in the class, we have what we call this contract, where you guys decide the different roles that each of you take. And so a lot of the professors prefer you to kind of go in and out of your roles as you move through the simulation, so you learn it really well and you don't just know one thing. I think it's up to the team, but I think that's a good strategy, because you're going to need to know everything, because you're going to work as a team for the first several weeks. Then you're going to do this individually. So if you were just letting somebody make these decisions and you weren't engaged, it's going to be much more difficult for you. And for those of you that are already worried, like, I don't want to work with another team, I'm burned out from this, know this, and I think both the professors will say this: it is very uncommon that we have team issues at the capstone level. And I say that because you guys got here. This is the very last class. You guys are so close to the end. You're going to have yourself a big giant party at the end of this, 2 months at the end of the summer, and be really proud of this. So people are really motivated. We also have peer reviews where you get to rate each other. It is unusual that students don't earn all points on a peer review, but if you aren't doing it and you score low early, you can course correct and improve as you move through the course. And most students do that. It's rare that a student would have poor peer reviews. But what's most important is having an effective communication process among your team, and know how you're going to communicate, follow that contract, know your role, make sure you understand the entire simulation, and that you don't make decisions in a vacuum, that you are understanding what the team is doing as a whole, and you are understanding the marketing decisions, because it will affect your production. And so you don't want to be disengaged in this course, and particularly at the beginning in the simulation, because it's going to affect your peer review. And as I said, the first several weeks, you're going to be working as a team. As you get into week 6, you're going to be individual. And boy, if you haven't been engaged and you've been counting on a team, you got a double whammy. You're probably not going to get peer review, and you are not going to understand the simulation when you do it individually. So these decisions that you have to make, you're going to be doing it individually, and then what we call the Comp XM after you're done with the team portion. And then you're going to take an exam on your knowledge and understanding of the different components of the simulation. So that's just incredibly important. I do want to say that unfortunately, there's a lot of, I'll just say this, questionable tutor help that you'll find on the internet. and I'll use that word very loosely, that'll say, hey, we'll do your individual portion for you for a fee, and we'll guarantee you a certain score. Don't fall for that, please. I don't want you guys to get kicked out of the university at the end. It is not a good decision. We're able to track the where it's an IP address. It's not your own. It comes from a different country. The people that do this as a business, we already know their IP addresses, and so they will come up as it will come up and let us know. So I don't want anyone to, I know it's an intimidating process, but by the time you get to the comp exam and you've been engaged, we find most students do pretty well, right? Or it doesn't weigh enough to make you fail the course. We just want you to have the knowledge to make these important decisions as you go through the simulation. So bottom line, you're going to be collaborative. You're going to work regularly. Most teams meet once or twice a week with each other. They have set times. They adhere to the contract that's done early on in the course, and they really have empathy and support and respect for other members, and you deal with conflict in a professional way like you would in any organization. I'm going to stop and let Dr. Ems chime in on anything you want to add to what I talked about so far.
Okay, can you hear me okay, Jim?
Absolutely.
Okay, so a couple of things, just to add to what Dr. Logren has already mentioned, is that, first of all, when you log in to Blackboard on the Sunday where you're first allowed to access the course, there's a Capstone team member guide. Capstone's the name of the simulation company. It's a team member guide, and I strongly urge each one of you to download that document. It's a fairly lengthy document. It's over 30 pages long. You may not want to print it, but I would certainly have it handy so that you can refer to it. Another piece of advice that I would give is, if you find that you're struggling and you're not having a good understanding, you can certainly come in to Dr. Menon or myself. In addition, there's Capstone support. These people are the creators of the simulation, and their knowledge on the simulation is absolutely outstanding. So they're more than happy to receive phone calls or emails from students. So don't be afraid to use Capstone support if you find that you're struggling with the simulation. Another thing that I would recommend is when you log into Blackboard, down on the left-hand side near the bottom, there's something called groups and users. There, when you log on to groups, you will find both, in this case, it looks like we may be doing two teams of students. So one team will be called Team Andrews, the other team will be called Team Baldwin. You'll be on one of those two teams, and I would strongly urge you to log into your team and provide your email addresses, your phone numbers, and the best times that you might be available to have meetings. As Dr. Logren mentioned, having meetings at least once a week face-to-face is a great idea. You may not want to use Collaborate. There are so many social media type of websites that are available, Zoom and Teams. So provide those details. That way you can get up and running right from the first time. And as Dr. Logren said, time management is so critical with this class. You really do need to log in every day, even if it's only for 10 or 15 minutes. It's very easy to get left behind, and when you're trying to catch up, it's very difficult. It's not an unmanageable amount of work that is with the Capstone BUS 700, but you don't want to fall behind. So, and then the last tip would be to switch up the roles. I am a believer in that. There's basically 4 key roles: marketing, production, R&D, and finance. So I do recommend that you take a crack at each one of those business areas for a round or two, and it will ensure that you're better prepared in week 6 when it comes time to do the individual components. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Dr. Emerson. I just want to also stress the point that you'll get all the information to access the simulation when you get into the course. There'll be an announcement from your instructor that will give the instructions, the link to actually get to the simulation, and then how to set up your ID and all that kind of stuff. So that'll all be waiting for you as you get into the course. And so there's no worries on that. That'll be provided for you, and then you can start working on that, right away and start navigating and fooling around. And there's, different things that you will do to help you be successful in the course early on. So I recommend that you do that. Dr. Menon, anything you'd like to add?
I think Dr. M's covered most of the main points there. Only thing I wanted to add was after each round, there are very detailed reports available in Capstone, so do download that and discuss as a team so you'll know exactly where you're falling behind and what improvements you can do to the next or the following rounds. So those reports are very extensive and very clearly explained. And if you have any questions, you can either call either of us, or even Capstone support is there to help you understand all the inputs and what is required to improve your simulation products. That's it. Thanks, Jeff.
Well, thank you, Dr. Menon.
Excuse me.
And Alan, if you could move down the outline just a tad so I can make sure I have everything. I'm going to stop for student questions about the simulation. Any questions about that portion of the course? We want you to have fun with it. I mean, I think most folks really appreciate what they learn. Some students say, well, this is more about manufacturing and I'm going to work in retail. So this has nothing. The thought process is still the same. And this whole idea of inventory, if you're watching the news right now, a lot of these major retailers and other companies are having a difficult time with inventory levels. So learning the navigation of how to make these important business decisions, it's critical no matter what business that you're in. So that's really the takeaway. So that's the simulation portion. As we mentioned, you do several weeks as a team, and then as you get into week 6, then you go into the individual, which is called CompXM. The beginning of the course, we expect you to learn how to navigate, and really early on, you're just kind of by yourself and you're learning how to navigate. If you have a problem with the navigation, like I'm lost, it is best to call the Capstone hotline. They have a toll-free number, and you can call it. They're open 9 to 9 Eastern time. And if you're out of those hours, they're really good at answering emails as well. And on weekends, they are not available on the phone, but they are Monday through Friday. But again, just recently I had to call on a weekend or email on a weekend, and they were back to me within 20 minutes. So I think that's something to know, that there is somebody for you. And I think it's much better on those issues because they can look at your individual account and see where you're at. And sometimes with the instructor, we're guessing, what it might be, but they can really look at it. The other piece I really want to emphasize is Dr. Menon or Dr. M's, myself, or the Capstone folks will never give you the answer. So sometimes, and this happens almost every class, somebody emailed and said, we're going to give you feedback. We'll tell you that you have too much inventory in a certain product or give you some general ideas, but we are never going to tell you do this, this, and this. Nobody in business is going to tell you, and if they are, you shouldn't trust them. I mean, you might get a consultant to give you the idea. It doesn't mean they're right, but nobody's going to come in and say, do this, 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 like kind of connect the dots. We might tell you need to look at this, but as a team, you have to decide what's the right decision. So please don't expect your professor. We get emails like, I have too much inventory in this product. Tell me how to fix it. We're not gonna do that. I've told the instructors not to give the answer to those. types of questions. That's where you have to use your knowledge of the MBA to make those critical decisions. And some of those decisions are going to be based on what you guys decide as a team. And sometimes you're going to see you made some good decisions, and then you're going to realize we didn't fix the issue. And throughout the entire simulation, you're going to have what we call rounds, and these rounds are when you make the decisions. So you're going to see round one's doing this day, round two's on this. That's when your decisions are made. And right after that round, you can look at your reports, and they'll tell you how you did. Your professor may give you an overview of some good things and some opportunities, but you look at those reports, and then you make these, make decisions like, hey, what didn't we do so well? What did we do so well that we can capitalize on and continue? And how can we look at these reports and improve our financial situation in our company? And the Capstone Courier is probably the most important report, but there's a balanced scorecard as well that will give you ideas of where you are on the results of the decisions that you've made as you go into each round. All right, I'm going to move into the other portion of the course, which is the project itself. And as I mentioned,
Jim,
I'm sorry, was there a
couple of questions students are typing here, so I'm just going to read them out. Excuse me. Jennifer asks, does the professor review work periodically or only at the group's individual's request? So Jennifer, are you asking about the simulation? Are we reviewing it at every stage?
Yes, that's what I'm asking. Just if we have to submit something every week, or is it only when we need direction?
You're doing the rounds, Jennifer. So when you do the round one, as I said, there's 5 rounds. So when you do those rounds as a team, that's when those decisions are made. That's when you see the results, and you're going to be able to look at your reports, and your professor will look at your results and give your team some feedback. And usually that feedback goes in the group section, and it will tell you what you're doing well, some opportunities, or they'll give you a report, some ideas where you're at. But you're able to see your results after each round. So to answer your question, the professor sees your rounds, you're able to see your rounds, and you'll be able to look at your reports and see what they are seeing and giving you feedback. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
There's another question from Russell, Jim. It says, is each round of CAPSIM a graded deliverable? Are there practice rounds?
So there are practice rounds in the course. So that early on, we give you just practice rounds, and it's just getting used to it. And they are not counted towards your actual competition round. Every once in a while, I get an email from a student say, we had such a great competition round. We want to continue. That's great, but unfortunately, no, that's not the way it works. We just want you to learn how to navigate. And so we actually grade you, and that's a great question. We grade you on how you communicate, how you're doing as a team. So we have these reports that you do, and you write up these reports, and we want to see, do you understand what you're doing well and not well, and do you have a plan to address it? Just like if you were going to write something to shareholders and explain where you're at. So we aren't looking for perfection. We're looking for articulation, in a sense that you can explain where you're at and that you have a plan to address these issues. And that's really what we want you to learn from the simulation. Dr. Ems or Dr. Menon, you want to add to that comment?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The grading component really doesn't have all that much to do with your results. The grading component is based on, as Dr. Logren said, your articulation of your results. Not did you make $1 billion? That's great if you did, or it's great if you didn't. It's more telling Dr. Menon and myself how you achieved the results, which products sold well, which products didn't sell well. If you had to take on an emergency loan, which one of your products has excessive inventory. So you're not graded on each round. There are 2 reports. You do a report on rounds 1 and 2. I believe that's in week 3. And then in week 5, you're going to do a report on rounds 3, 4, and 5. So it's the reports that see the grade. It has really very little to do with your results. So whether you do really well or you don't do really well, as long as you articulate why you got the results that you did, that's what counts as far as it comes to grading.
Yeah, so you don't want to
Just
write
one
a
thing.
report. Yeah, you don't want to write a report that says, we don't understand what's going on. Something must be wrong with the simulation because we are making awesome decisions and it must be broken. Now, we sometimes get those little comments, but the truth of it is we want you to sit back and analyze these reports and figure out, hey, where was our opportunities? How you want to give us confidence, when I say us, those people that are affected by the organization, confidence that you know how to fix the issues that you have in the organization. Dr. Menon, did you want to add something?
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to add was every week, just make sure that you're reading all the available resources and the requirements. We've attached plenty of PDF documents that is really explaining to you what is required that week and the rubric attached to it. So those things are really detailed documents that will help you a lot to, to make sure that you're fulfilling the requirements. Thanks.
Thank you. So thank you for the questions. I think they were excellent questions. And let's move into the project. So the project is not a case. It's not something given to you. You need to come up with what you want to focus on. And when I say that, you have a few choices. And number one is that the choice needs to be connected to your concentration in the MBA somehow. Okay, so we want you to take your knowledge and apply it. So if you are a leadership student, it needs to be a leadership opportunity. And if you are a project management student, with the concentration in project management, then you need to have some sort of project that you are focused on. And same with marketing and finance and whatever else your concentration might be in. And so you have a few choices I mentioned. The most common choice of all is what we call a proposal. And that proposal means you're taking a problem in an organization or an opportunity, and you are coming up with a plan, a strategy to address it. Most students pick the company they currently work for. Most of our students are adult learners that have full-time jobs, and that's what they pick. That is not a requirement. And you're in this class to pick your current company. You may have reasons that you don't want to, like you hate your job, you hate your organization, you're in between jobs, or there's something else that you're more passionate about. So the number one factor when you decide what you want to focus on, pick passion. What are you most passionate about? And the professors in this class can pick up really quickly if you're passionate about it. Every once in a while, we'll get students saying, my boss wants me to do this project, so I guess I'll just, get credit from my boss and the class, but I'm just going to try to get through it. That usually doesn't work well. This is something you're going to be working from day one for 8 weeks. Doggone it, you better have some energy behind it, not just like, dreading every moment with it. We've had so many wonderful projects that have gone on to make significant differences for organizations or for the individual themselves. So when I look at a project, think about something that you've learned in the program and you think, boy, I wish my company did that. Boy, I bet we could just really change things around here if we did that. So think about that. Tie it to your concentration and think if you had passion, around that, something that really sparked you as you went through this program. And I'll give you a few ideas that we have, that we've seen over the years. Number one, we've had a student that was a leadership concentration, and her passion was to teach leadership to young women in her community that she felt were really not focused on by others. And it was young women between 17 and 21 that she saw sometimes lost and that no one was paying attention to them. And she really wanted them to know how important they were, and that to learn about the leadership skills that she learned about. So she developed a nonprofit around teaching leadership skills to young women that are just starting their career. And some of the things that you learned in the program, she put it into this nonprofit. And she actually was able to get interest in her community through local community leaders and church leaders. And she was able to eventually launch this. But she took her leadership concentration and developed a strategy around developing a nonprofit to develop leadership skills. And I thought that was a great idea. And there's many others similar to that around veterans. We've had several veterans that work on a strategy. So you're going to learn to apply what you've learned in a lot of our courses. But if there's one course that I think is probably the foundation of the entire this entire course, it would be Business 525, the strategy course. And what I mean by that is this is a strategy. And so we're going to ask you to do goals, which is big picture. We're going to ask you to do tactics, which are smart objectives. So the goals are what you want to accomplish, and the tactics are kind of how you're going to do it. And we're going to ask you to make sure they're smart, as you learned in 525. And that's something you're going to do in business as well, that you're going to be asked to make sure that you have goals. If you don't have goals, you're not going to accomplish it, right? And if you don't have the tactics, you're not going to know if you are accomplishing it or not, if you're not able to measure it. So think about that as you're going through this. And so this first explanation was around a proposal, and you can make it a marketing. We've had plenty of social media types of focuses. We've had plenty of new products that would be launched in an organization, or a new process that are on production and whatever. We've had those kind of things as well. The other possibility is if this doesn't thrill you for whatever reason to do a proposal, you could do a business plan. And a business plan would be some sort of new venture. And, in my experience, we seem to be getting more and more of this today. I don't know if it's the pandemic. I don't know if it's the world we live in, but it sure seems like we're kind of getting a little bit more on the business plan. And there's no right or wrong. I think it's what you're most passionate about. And I know Dr. Menon and Dr. Ems have seen some very interesting proposals and business plans. We've had everything from hair salons to food trucks to microbreweries and so on out there. But again, whatever you decide in this business, you do have to apply it to your concentration. And so if this business is going to be a consulting business of some sort, you need to be consulting with something that you learned in your concentration. If you're opening up a business, if your concentration was entrepreneurship, you're all set. If it's not, then it needs to revolve around that concentration somehow, which is not difficult. And we're able to work with you. And both professors are really good at helping you develop your ideas. Early on in the course, that first week, they really want to understand what you're focused on, reach out to them, develop a relationship, send them an email, here's my ideas. And you could reach out and say, hey, I want to have a conversation. I mean, they're really good professors on that, but I think try the email first, and they can help you that way. And I think that you're going to find that they're both very approachable around that. But what's most important is in your own mind, think about A, what are you passionate about? B, how's it tied to your concentration? C, do you have the resources available to you for the data that you need to be able to, develop this strategy? Bottom line is you're writing a minimum 20-page paper on this project. Please don't flip out and say 20 pages and I have everything else to do. We're actually writing this as we're going through the course, and we're doing little sections at a time, and you're able to get feedback from your professor, approximately 5 pages at a time. As I mentioned, we do have these kind of quasi discussion boards where you can upload your ideas and get feedback from your peers in the class too. And so we're giving you a lot of opportunities to kind of develop this as you're moving around, and you're doing this in sections. And when you're all said and done, you'll have a minimum of 20 pages around this strategy. But you got to have resources available. You don't want to start this and think, well, I sure hope I can find this. You want to make sure that if you're doing your company, that you talk to somebody. If you don't have, immediate or direct access to it, that you check with your leader or the human resource department ahead of time. So if you need data on customer service scores or employee satisfaction scores, if that happens to be your idea, whatever you need to track, good decisions come with good data, and you need to have the data. If you're doing some sort of company and doing a business plan, there's a lot of associations out there that can give you information. Most of our students will find an association. We had one student that did a karate studio, and there was an American Karate Association where they can give you a lot of figures, what to look for in a community, for target markets and so on with that. And that's true in almost every business today. There will be some sort of association. The other thing that a lot of entrepreneurs do is they find somebody in this business outside their target market that they could reach out to. And I remember with the karate studio, they found somebody with a karate studio in another state. They looked them up. I think they sent emails to 3 or 4 different ones, and they had one come back say, can I sit down and talk to you, like a video conference, and understand how you started your business, and what are some things that you did well and not so well? What things would you recommend to somebody else? It was so amazing to this person because they learned so much about the business that they really didn't understand. Even though they had a passion for karate, they didn't really understand the business elements or the customer service that was needed in that particular business, not to mention the government regulations and some of the other things that may affect your strategy as well. So, bottom line is, think about those things. We don't want you to take some company that you know anything about, and all you're going to do is little internet searches. We had a student a few terms ago want to do Tesla. They didn't work for Tesla, knew nothing about Tesla and what they read on the internet. That's not this kind of class. We want you to use data that you have, not really wide general data, because that's not going to help you make a reasonable proposal. We had another student that wanted to work on Pepsi, didn't work at Pepsi, knew nothing about their strategy, knew understanding at all, but they had this dream for Peppermint Pepsi, and Peppermint Pepsi doesn't seem appealing to me, but this student really just thought it was the most awesome thing in the world, but had no knowledge about any marketing that may have been done on that particular product, or what their strategy was currently, other than what they could find on the internet. So don't take these general companies, take something that you have control over, whether it's your own company, a nonprofit you're interested in, or a business plan, so you have those 3 options. And so, as I said, you're going to be doing these papers throughout the course. At the end, you're going to have a presentation that you will do a video on, that as if you are going to present this to, if it's a new venture, it would probably be to somebody who is going to invest with you. If it's something that you would do for your organization, then it would be something that you would be able to, as if you were presenting to them. And our hope is you can actually present to them, someday, and you'll be doing this in the real world. That's what we really hope for, that you'll be able to do it. If you don't want your own company, you don't want to do the company you currently work for, no new venture, you can take something you learned in the program and develop a strategy around that you could apply for any organization. This is not very common, but if that was the case, say, you know what, I'm currently retired, I have no desire to start my own business, I'm doing this degree as a bucket list item, and I really just want to take something I learned and apply it more generically, that any organization can utilize it, like a social media strategy or something like that. That would be approved as well. We know we're not all in this degree for the same reason. And so we want to make sure that we're giving you an opportunity to apply the way it's best for you. And so think about that as you start to make a decision. And you can think about this the next week or so. Check to see if you have data available, resources to find the information that you need. And so have fun with this. Pick something that really can make a difference for you. Whatever that difference is, we're all individuals in what that is. But we can tell when you truly care about it, and will make a difference in the way you feel about the course, the way you feel about the project, and we hope that you'll be able to apply it sometime in your career. I'm going to open up to, I guess I'll start with Dr. Menon. Any comments or anything you want to add?
I guess what is it echoing?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. So I guess Bill had asked a question, can the proposal be for any kind of business, anything off limits? And I had replied in the chat saying, if you're passionate about it, you can do it. Usually you'll have a meeting with the instructors in the first week to ensure that it covers all the requirements and it's aligned with your concentration, things like that. And we can make it happen. No problems there. So come with the one or two. Sorry, go ahead.
If it's illegal, if it's something completely illegal, then we probably wouldn't approve it.
Sure.
If it's legal in your state. We've had students try to do some things that are not legal. Now, one of the more popular things now is the marijuana industry, and we've had a lot of students do that because it's legal in their state, or they're going to do it in a state that it's legal in. That's not against our values in a sense that if it's legal in your state, that's, we're not judging that, right? We want you to have a strategy. A business is a business. But if you're going to do something that is completely illegal, it's probably not, it's not going to be approved unless you can say, no, it's legal in my area. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I believe Bill's got the answer there. The other thing I wanted to add was when you come to this first week's meeting with the instructors, also have a second idea, just in case if the first one doesn't go through, then, have something else to fall back on, and we can discuss that. And I've had situations where students have come with 2 or 3 ideas, and the third one is what they finally picked and ran with. So things could change once we have the discussion based on your project. So thanks, Jim.
Yep, Dr. Menon, did I answer the student's question about is anything off limits?
Yes, Bill, anything you want to add on that, or do you have any other questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Dr. Menon.
Yes. Dr. Ems, you can take.
Dr. Ems, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things that I'd like to add. Number one, if you are working for a company that happens to be a private company, one of the things that you're going to want to watch out for is if you're able to produce the financials from the company. In week 4 of the class, when you're doing your capstone project, you need to provide financials for your project. If it's a proposal where you're looking to improve something at the company, you're basically looking at a cost versus benefits type of document. And if you're doing that, you want to make sure that you can have access to the financials at your company. If it's a public company where the financials are there for everybody to see, that's not an issue per se. But just make sure that when you talk to your mentor in the company who's going to provide you with help where you might need it, make sure that you find out from your mentor if you're able to provide financials that the rest of the class are going to be able to see. And then just a couple of things with regards to your submissions when it comes time to submit your project each and every week. As Dr. Logren mentioned, you're going to be doing 3 or 4 or 5 pages every week, starting probably in about week 2, week 3. to get you up to your 20 pages. The one thing that I sometimes see is, and Dr. Menon and I both love to provide feedback to your projects, and one of the things that I know I find particularly frustrating is I'll provide feedback and some suggestions, and where there may be mistakes, and I get the next iteration of the project a week later, and those same errors and mistakes were not corrected. So it's very important that you go in and you have a look at the feedback from the instructor. It's not just, oh gee, I got 92. I thought I'd only get about 86, so I'm thrilled with 92. I don't even need to go in and look at what the instructor said. So I do encourage you not only to be satisfied with your grade, but to also go in and look at what your instructor has told you and make those changes and improvements where they're required. And then the second thing, Dr. Menon touched on it briefly in another comment, is that there are tremendous resources in the unit materials. You'll find excellent instructions on what is required that particular week, what is required as far as it relates to the capstone, what is required for the your capstone project. So go in and make sure that you understand what the ask is each week, and then in addition there are rubrics that are associated with each and every week. So it's very important to, before you start typing, go in and read what the assignment is asking you to do and what the rubric is asking you to do before you start typing. That way you should be well on your way to receiving a good grade on your project each and every week. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ems. I appreciate it, Dr. Menon. The last portion of the course are 2 MBA requirements. And those requirements require you to, number one, take an exam. I don't want anyone to freak out about that. And if you can mute yourself, I appreciate it. I'm getting a lot of feedback. So this exam is really meant to evaluate our program more than you, meaning that we look to see what our strengths are. You're taking this MBA exam that is on finance, accounting, marketing, HR, even business law, which you may not have had a course on. So don't get stressed out like, oh, I'm going to fail that. We don't evaluate you on your score. We evaluate you if you've completed it on time. And we use this information to make macro decisions about the MBA. And some of you have known we've made some new decisions, and some of that was based on results of our MBA scores on this exam, and we evaluate ourselves based on similar schools. So we're able to look at the exam and look at students in schools and that are similar to us with adult learners and so on, and see how we're doing in each segment. And so we are able to make some good decisions. So don't worry about that. I know Dr. Ems and Menon, we've all got emails from the students saying, I'm so mad. I thought I learned so much in this program. I failed the exam. I'm useless. I guess I didn't learn anything. Obviously, that's not the case. And exams don't tell you everything, right? But we want to be able to make some good decisions. The other MBA requirement, which is my personal favorite, is your reflection video. And the reason it's my favorite is you get to reflect on your journey. And it means so much to me because you all have a story. You got here some way. And some of your stories are quite inspiring. And you can share whatever you want to share. But we've had people share about some of the things they've had to overcome that's made them stronger, whether this would be health challenges, a divorce, a job loss, incarceration. I mean, we've had a lot of different things that students have overcome to get to this. And I want you to know something right off before I let you go tonight. Do you realize how special you are? And I say that from a sense, do you know in the US, only about 8% of the US population, depending what state you live in, has a graduate degree? And do you know that about 40% have an undergrad? And so thinking that you have put yourself in this special group. Granted, an MBA does not guarantee you anything, but it certainly increases your odds significantly. And don't ever forget that. And so you are putting yourself in a group. When I was a hiring manager, I always ruled out, the MBAs first. Now they didn't always get the job, but they certainly got the interview before anyone else, because to me, that says a lot about the individual. And especially because I was an adult learner, I never forgot what I gave up. And I can only speak for myself. And most of the students that I get to know tell me, man, my master's degree meant more to me, my undergrad. It's just because had more going on in my life. I was able to apply what I've learned. I had challenges along the way, and I've overcome, and I got here and I got that degree. You earned it, and don't ever forget that. So think about the reflection. What went well? What didn't go well? What courses had the biggest effect? What were some of the challenges you had to overcome? What recommendations do you have for us as we continue to grow the program? And so think about that as you reflect on it. And I'm always inspired. Just recently I was watching one of the students, and I was the first of my family, not only with a master's degree, with any degree. And then, and thinking about how that affects other people. I had a student, a couple, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago, sent me an email. This person I didn't know very well, but they knew me from my past career and said, I watched you from afar and I see what you have accomplished, and inspired me. And I went back to school, earned my master's and my doctorate. And I always saw you. You got out of this crazy job we were in and you made a difference. And I want to do the same. So you affect other people. And here's another interesting research study. When you have a master's degree, your children are more likely to earn one someday in their life. So you are inspiring them, even though they might be complaining that you're working too much, or like you never spending time with me, or I don't know what he's doing or she's doing, or all those guilt trips that they may make you feel. But when it's all said and done, they know you accomplished something. May take years, but they know that. So don't forget about that as you are finishing and what you gave up. And I've had many students send me emails saying that their career took a different way than they ever expected. When they finished their degree, jobs became available to them. Their employer looked differently at them, but more importantly, you look differently at yourself. So, that's probably the most important walk away, is that the degree gives you confidence because you accomplished something maybe you didn't think you could do, or other people didn't think you could do. Your employer didn't think you could do. Whatever the case is, you showed them. And I think that's really important. So I'm going to leave it and just open it up to any questions. Dr. Ems or Menon, either one of you, if you want to make some last comments, please do. If not, we'll open up to the group.
Nothing for me to add, Jim. I do hope, as you said, that they have fun with the simulation. I hope they enjoy working on their project, and as you say, the win-win out of the project would be if your project was picked by your employer as something to actually get done. Where you may have a suggestion on a way for your company to improve their revenue or to decrease their expenses, and your VP or your SVP speaks to you or your manager and says, you know what, that's a great idea, and we're gonna put that idea into motion. So again, have fun with the Capstone. Don't be too alarmed if you don't understand it right from day one. It's a learning process. That's why we have the practice round, so that after you're done the 2 practice rounds and you get into the competition round, you'll be a lot better prepared to make wise decisions. And then again, for the project, have passion. You're at it for 8 weeks. And again, it would be a win-win if your project could ever get put into place by your employer. Thank you.
Yeah, as we said earlier, both of us are here to help you and make you, excel in the course. So do not hesitate to reach out anytime, and we'll be there for you.
I'm going to open up the questions you have. Dr. Minow, if you see anything typed in,
I don't see any chat questions, so I guess we should be good then. If you have any questions, students can, unmute and ask now.
Well, our sincere hope is that you feel that you have a better understanding of the Capstone and that you can reflect on the things that we talked about tonight, think about some ideas, not only on your project, but also how you might interact with your team and overcome some of the challenges maybe you faced in other courses and so on for this final. So it means a lot to us that you're here because it shows that you're serious and you want to be successful and you want to learn as much as you can. It gives you a little time to reflect. So thank you.
Thank you
so much. And I hope you don't get the bad weather that I've experienced here, and have a wonderful evening. And I wish you the very best in the Capstone. Alan, any last words from you?
Honestly, just to say that you all should be incredibly proud of how far you've come, and don't take your foot off the gas now. As you've made it this far, it's just a little further to go. Everybody here is cheering you on. We know you can do this. And if you're ever feeling confused or lost or stressed or have questions, talk to your advisor, talk to me, talk to Emily, talk to your instructor. Let us know what we can do for you. So we have full confidence that you've got this. We're here to help you however you need.
Yeah, we have a high success rate. This is, as I said, this is not a weed out course. We have a very, very high success rate. And I think it's because we have good professors, students that take us seriously at the end, and a good plan. So use those to your advantage. And thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all.
Everybody,
Thank you, Alan.
thank you. Take care.
Have a good night.
Thanks, James.